Hare Krishna. Welcome this morning to our Srimad Bhagavatam class and Japa. Nice to have your association. The numbers are reducing, but anyway, we can still get the maximum benefit. It's for ourselves uh, first and then everybody else. So see what we can learn. We were a wonderful class today. We talk about Maharaja Nimi, and Maharaj Nimi was speaking to the Yogendras, and he asked some very interesting questions from them, and he learned a lot of things, just like we're trying to learn. He learned a lot of things from them, and today we're going to continue with Maharaj Nimi and how he gets cursed by Sage Vashisht, curses him over what might seem very trivial thing. So let's see. So Maharaj Nimi is performing a yajna. He's the son of Ikshvaku, Maharaj Ikshvaku, and he requested the great sage Vashisht to take the post of chief priest. At that time, Vashisht replied, "My dear Maharaj Nimi, I have already accepted the same post in a sacrifice given by Lord Indra." So let's just do a quick prayer. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. So Sage Vashisht says that I shall return here after finish the yajna for Indra. Kindly wait for me. Until then, Maharaj Nimi remained silent, and Sage Vashisht began to perform the sacrifice for Lord Indra. So he left him, and he says, "I'll come back. So please wait for me." So he went to the heavens to do the yajna for Indra. But Maharaj Nimi, being self-realized soul, considered that this life is flickering. Therefore, instead of waiting long for Vashisht, and we'll discuss that why is waiting long for Vashisht, he began performing the sacrifice with other priests. So Chanakya Pandit says, Shariram Shana Vidvamsi Kalpanta Sthaino Gunha. The duration of one's life in the material world may end at any moment, as we were talking about the Katvanga moment, at any moment. But if within this life one does not do something worthy, that qualification is depicted in history, or one does something worthy, that qualification is depicted in history eternally. So here is a great personality, Maharaj Nimi, who knew this fact. In the human form life, one should perform activities in such a way that at the end he goes back home, back to Godhead. That's the ultimate goal. So this is self-realization. So as we've seen earlier, when he met the 9 Yogendras, Maharaj Nimi didn't waste any time and didn't miss the opportunity. That's how he was. He knew a good thing when there was, and he would just jump straight in and not waste any time. So after acknowledging from the Yogendras, he had a lot of benefit. So he did the right thing there. So he decided he'll just go ahead with the yajna. So after completing the sacrificial performance for King Indra, the spiritual master Vashisht returned and found that his disciple Maharaj Nimi had disobeyed his instructions. Thus Vashisht cursed him, saying, "May the material body of Nimi, who considered himself learned, immediately fall." So Sage Vashisht returned and saw that Maharaj Nimi had started the yajna without him. He wasn't very happy, and he got very angry and cursed Maharaj Nimi to basically to die for unnecessarily cursing him when he had committed no offense as far as he was concerned. Maharaj Nimi counter-cursed his spiritual master. For the sake of getting contributions from the King of Heaven, he said, "You have lost your religious intelligence. Therefore, I pronounce this curse, your body will also fall." The religious principles for a Brahman is that he should not be greedy at all, which Sage Vashisht broke on this occasion. And Sage Vashish neglected Maharaj Nimi's request on this planet, and when Nimi performed the sacrifices with other priests, Vashish necessarily cursed him. When one is infected by contaminated activities, his power, material or spiritual, reduces. This is what happened with Sage Vashisht. So although he was spiritual master of Maharaj Nimi, because of his greed, he became fallen. And then on top of that, he did a curse that was unnecessary. And necessary for many reasons. The one reason is because Maharaj Nimi, he was the king. So you have a responsibility towards the king. You can't just kill a king and then, he's a very important person. He's looking after these the people, and then what, they have no leader, nobody to guide them. So it's very irresponsible thing to do, for especially for Sage Vashisht, for such a learned person. So during the performance of the yajna, the body relinquished by Maharaj Nimi was preserved in fragrant substances. So the yajna continued anyway, even though Maharaj Nimi had passed away. His body was preserved in fragrant substances. And at the end of Satra Yajna, the great saints and Brahmanas made the following request to all the demigods assembled there. The sages said to the demigods, if you are satisfied with this sacrifice, and if you are actually able to do so, kindly bring Maharaj Nimi back to life in this body. The demigods said yes to this request by the sages, but Maharaj Nimi said, please don't imprison me again in a material body. So we were talking last week that, bondage of material bodies, etc. Maya takes over, how to, the obstacles you have to pass through, the illusion of I am this body. So Maharaj Nimi didn't want to go back into all that again. He says, I don't want the body, especially of a king. So Sri Prabhupada explains that the demigods are in a position many times higher than that of human beings. Therefore, although the great saints and sages were also powerful brahmanas, they requested the demigods to revive Maharaj Nimi's body, which had been preserved in various perfume balms. One should not think that the demigods are powerful only enjoying the senses. They are also powerful in such deeds as bringing life back to a dead body. There are many similar instances in the Vedic literature. For example, according to history of Savitri and Satyavan, Satyavan died and was being taken away by Yamraj. But on the request of his wife Savitri, Satyavan was revived in the same body. This is an important fact about the power of the demigods. So then Maharaj Nimi continued. So they bring him back to life. But Maharaj Nimi says, Mayavadis generally want freedom from accepting a material body because they fear having to give it up again. But devotees whose intelligence is always filled with the service of the Lord are unafraid. Indeed, they take advantage of the body to render transcendental loving service. Maharaj Nimi didn't want to accept a material body, especially of a king, which would be a cause of bondage and sense gratification. Because he was a devotee, he wanted a body, if he had to have one, by which he could render devotional service to the Lord. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, my Lord, if you want me to take birth and accept a material body again, kindly do me this favor. Allow me to take birth in the home of your servant, your devotee. I don't mind being born there even as an insignificant creature like an insect. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also said, O Lord of the universe, I don't desire material wealth, materialistic followers, a beautiful wife, or fruitful activities described in flowery language. All I want life after life is unmotivated devotional service to you. So Nadanam Najanam Sundarim, so that 6th Ashtaka 4. So by saying this, life after life, Janmani, the Lord referred not to an ordinary birth, but a birth in which you remember the lotus feet of the Lord. So such a body is desirable. So this is explained by the devotee, whereas the yogis and the gyanis who want to refuse the material body and become one with the impersonal Brahman effulgence, a devotee does not like this idea, so doesn't want to accept a body. So, And Srila Rupa Goswami also confirms that if one has a strong desire to serve the Lord, even if he accepts a material body, there is no cause of anxiety, since a devotee, even in a material body, he is liberated soul. So a person acting in Krishna consciousness, or in other words, in the service of Krishna, with his body, mind, and intelligence and words, is liberated person even within the material body. And this is what we are trying to achieve. So although he may be engaged in many so-called material activities, like we are as grastas, the desire to serve the Lord establishes one as liberated in any condition of life, whether in a spiritual body or a material body. In a spiritual body, the devotee becomes a direct associate of the Lord. But even though a devotee may superficially appear to be a material body, he is always liberated and is engaged in the same duties of the service of the Lord as devotee like of the Lord. There is no distinction. Actually, just the bodies are different. But if we're doing devotion service, that's what we are doing here, and that's what we will be doing there. So there is no distinction. It's all about your mindset, how you're operating. So for a devotee, there is no pain, pleasure, or material perfection. One may argue that at the time of death, devotee also suffers because of giving up his material body. But in this connection, the example may be given that a cat carries a mouse in its mouth and also carries a kitten in its mouth. Both the mouse and the kitten are carried in the same mouth, but the perception of the mouse is different from that of the kitten. The kitten is confident that his or her mother is not going to damage or do something wrong with it, whereas the mouse knows that this is the end of the line for him. So this is a difference. For a devotee knows that the Lord is always protecting him, and in whatever the Lord does, it's always for our benefit. So that's that. So when a devotee gives up his body, Tyaktava Deham, he is ready to go back home, back to Godhead. Thus, his perception is certainly different from that of a person being taken away by Yamraj for punishment. A person whose intelligence is always concentrated upon the service of the Lord is unafraid of accepting a material body, whereas a non-devotee, having no engagement in the service of the Lord, is very much afraid of accepting a material body or giving up his present one. Therefore, we should follow the instruction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mama Janmani Janveshwara Bhakti Avritiki Tabai. It doesn't matter whether we accept a material body or a spiritual body, our only ambition should be to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So coming back to the story. So Maharaj Nimi, he was happy to accept a body, but he didn't want the body that he already had, because he was seen as the king. He didn't want to that position. He wanted a position of a devotee only. So he didn't want to come back in the same body. He didn't mind taking birth again, but he didn't want that particular body. And that's how convicted he was in his endeavor to serve the Lord, that he just wanted to be a devotee. So coming back now to the story. So the demigod said, let Maharaj Nimi live without a material body. So that's the decision they made. Let him live in a spiritual body as a personal associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Maharaj was so exalted that the demigod decided to give him a spiritual body. And according to his desire, let him be manifest or unmanifest to common material embodied people. So just like the demigod or God himself, he can manifest himself or unmanifest himself according to their own desire. So the demigods wanted Maharaj Nimi to come to life, but Maharaj Nimi didn't want to accept another body. Under the circumstances, the demigods, having requested by saintly person, gave him the benediction that he would be able to stay in his spiritual body. So there are two kinds of spiritual bodies, as generally understood by common men. The term spiritual body is sometimes taken to refer to as a ghostly body. An impious man who dies after sinful activity is sometimes condemned so that he cannot possess a gross material body or five material elements, but must live in a subtle body of mind, intelligence, and ego. However, as explained in Bhagavad Gita, Devotees can give up the material body and attain a spiritual body from all material changes, gross and subtle. Tyaktava deham pure janma neti mam eti so Arjuna. So thus the demigods gave King Nimi the benediction that he would be able to stay in a purely spiritual body from all gross and subtle material contamination. So just like the ability to see Krishna depends on Krishna's mercy, the same privilege of being seen or unseen according to one's own desire was given to Maharaja Nimi, and thus he lived in his original spiritual body as an associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's, after speaking to the Yogendras and getting all that knowledge, Maharaja Nimi became so strong in his conviction that he was willing to give up everything, every material thing, his kingdom, his family, and even his material body. He just want to serve the Lord. And I guess the sages and the demigod were so pleased with him that they actually gave him a spiritual body so he could serve the Lord directly. Whereas we are serving indirectly at the moment. We are in training, so he could serve the Lord directly. So, how fortunate he was uh, to have that situation. I mean, although it left the kingdom without a king, and then, the story obviously continues. After that, his body gets churned, and there's a Maharaja Janak, not the Maharaja Janak that we know. Maharaja Janak is born, and then he takes over, so that the story continues. But as far as Maharaj Nimi is concerned, he got what he wanted, and that is the power of devotional service, and that is the power of believing in Lord Krishna. So thank you so much. We'll just discuss that much, and I'd like to just have a discussion on this, see what you think, and what's your realizations from this. So let's just pass it around, and we got Partha Prabhu. Prabhu, I would like to hear something from you today.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah. What do you think, Prabhu?
Very nice class, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think Prabhu, like from this, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, please, Prabhu. What I understand is like whether you do a mistake willingly or unwillingly, everyone has to fall in that life cycle. There is no way that you can escape the material world. So
Sure.
even though he cursed back his spiritual master, not willingly actually, but still he has to come back. Everyone has to come back for to clear their dues anyhow. And second is Maharaj Nimi is showing us what is actually important. Even though he is king, he is a powerful king, but he still doesn't want to be a king again. He want to be a devotee. So he shows that what. So those people actually are setting us goals that what is actually required in our life. That's very nice, Prabhu. Thank you so much. That's all.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. So we although we have to do our duties, we should not be attached to our material opulence and family, everything. Physically we have to do everything, but mentally we should know that we are servants of Lord Krishna, and that should be our target. So everything is used in the service of Lord Krishna, and that's how our mind should be set, and not just completely attached to family life, to work, or anything like that. Although we have to do our responsibilities, but we shouldn't be over endeavored in those things. That's the idea. Okay, Sandeep Prabhu, would you like to say something? Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Sorry, I joined a bit late, so
Okay.
yeah.
That's okay. You want to say anything?
Not really. No. It was
That's
a wonderful
fine.
class, though. Yeah. Thank you
Okay.
for that,
No
Prabhuji.
problem. Yeah, just join in the discussion, just listen, because this is even more important because everybody's realizations come out of this.
Yeah.
So
Thanks for
that's
the
fine.
wonderful class, though. Yeah. I've got
Thank you.
nothing to say.
No problem. That's no problem. It's all by hearing. Now hearing is more important.
Yeah.
Jay Prabhu, anything?
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Yeah, it's a case of misunderstanding and overreaction, with a sage cursing, and
Yeah.
yes, I mean, I think the Vashishta didn't want to let Maharaja Nimi down, and I think Maharaja Nimi didn't want to let his people down by delaying the yagna, and I think Sage Vashishta, his ego was hurt, and he just got angry and overreacted. So, yes, the other point was we shouldn't be attached to the body. So that's the only point I want to make. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good, Prabhu. That's wonderful. I mean, you're absolutely right. As we've discussed before in other classes, that life is a series of moments, and we don't know whether we're going to be here. Each of our life is a moment, a moment, a moment. We don't know whether we're going to be alive in the next moment. This is the thing. And this is like Katwanga Maharaj. He knew what to do in his last moment. I mean, we should see everything as our last moment because we don't know. And though Maharaj Katwanga knew that he was going to die, we don't even know how much time. We might have 10 seconds left. We don't know how much time we have. So everything is a series of moments. And the interesting thing is that Sage Vishish, he's saying that I'm going to go to Indralok and do the yajna, come back. He could say, I'm only going to be 1 day. I'm only going for a day, but yajnas are quite long actually. So it wasn't going to be 1 day. But we have to remember that 1 day in the lok is same as 1 year on the earth planet. So if Sage Vishist goes to Indalok for one day even, that's 1 year gone. So how long is the Maharaj Nimi supposed to wait for him? If he's gone for a month, that's 30 years. It's a long time to wait for Sage Vishist to come back. And when you are living a series of moments, then how can you wait, say, 30 years? I think it's a ridiculous request. It should have been clear. We should have said to him, look, I'm happy to do the yajna if you're happy to wait, but otherwise, make alternative arrangement. This is what normal people do. But he just put his foot down. No, you wait for me, and then he curses him. So that was wrong. Okay. Who we got? Prem Prakash Prabhu. Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Jai Hare Krishna. Very nice altar.
Very well. Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. So, just would like to, this is very, very important topics are already being put forward, and I probably would be repeating them again. It's like um, what I feel that Maharaj Kritvanga and Maharaj Nimi, difference between them are that one knew that life is going to end, and another didn't knew what's going to happen. So there's the anxiety, but both of them knew what needs to be done basically in that moment. That's something very important. That if the attempt has to made to achieve devotion service or to take a step towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it has to be taken. It must be taken without considering any risks, basically. So one knew that he's going to die, so he has to take that step of devotional service, and probably in a mindset he's already in the mindset to leave the body, whereas Maharaj Nimi has to take the devotional service, and there shouldn't be any delay for that, and he was able to do that out of anxiety, out of right mood, right knowledge. He was able to do so, and that's the reason he even reconsidered the orders of his spiritual master. So for the benefit, for the sake of Krishna consciousness, one has to, it's basically consciousness, so one has to see that he needs to do whatever is right, even after taking risks to achieve the love of Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is an example which King Nimi is showing. Also, there are teachings saying that the material body or material opulence, whatsoever it is, being in a body of king or insignificant ant or whatever, they have their own enjoyment, and they feel the enjoyment is the fullest. Also, as the grass is greener on the other side, they also desire for more enjoyment, but this enjoyment uh, is never, it's temporary. So the King Nimi was aware there's a higher purpose of life as a form of what he can get liberated by the form of human life from the human life. So he still desired um, not to come as a form as in role of king rather than remain as in spiritual body. I believe there was some gap basically when this yajna happened, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Prabhuji, there was a gap after he got the benediction to remain in spiritual body, um, and then when he was asked uh, to reappear as a king, was there a gap? Are you aware of that, Prabhuji? Can I answer this question?
Yeah, there has, well, I mean, the spiritual body would be for the soul, for his soul. But his material body was kept, and then that was churned by the sages. And like I said, Maharaj Janak was produced from that.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, no, I thought that after he was cursed and after he was cursed, he was benedicted with spiritual body, but then he was in spiritual body. After a certain period, probably end of yajna or yoga or some, I'm not, I'm confused basically at the moment.
Okay.
I'm not, I don't have the entire knowledge, complete information about it. Whether it was the end of yoga or basically end of certain period, he was requested to reappear in the body, but then he was reluctant. I mean, irrespective of that fact, I mean, once the knowledge of the Supreme is attained, basically, it's difficult to fall down from there. That's also a reason that Krishna says that one who has attained my knowledge will come to my, or one who is aware. There are two verses basically when Krishna says that who is aware of me, my birth and my appearance, will come to me, and who leaves the body thinking about me will come to me. So, so a person, when Maharaj Nimi leaves the body as a spiritual body with that mindset, it was not possible for him to accept something which is grosser when he's already into elevated mindset. So we always need to the learning is basically, the teaching is that despite whether we know what is right or wrong, we need to still follow our acharyas because they know what is right for us. And the moment we actually keep on following, somehow uh, will achieve the high mindset, and then it's difficult to fall down from there.
Sure,
Um,
sure. Yeah, yes, you're right. I mean, he was given the spiritual body, or according to what's written in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that the yajna was still going on, and after the yajna, uh, I would assume that it says after the yajna, so I would assume
yeah,
straight away
that's
after
right.
the yajna. The sages asked the demigods, if you're pleased with the yajna, can you give Maharaj Nimi's body back?
Right.
Which
Yeah.
they had the power to do. So it seems that it was straight afterwards. His body was preserved throughout the yajna, but then they asked the sages after the yajna, and then Maharaj Nimi refused the body. He says he wants to keep, either spiritual body, or he wants to be reborn as in a devotee's house. He doesn't want.
Okay.
But then, if you look at it from a king's responsibility point of view, you would think that he had a responsibility to his people. So he was thinking about himself rather than his people, because he had a big responsibility to them as well. But that's his dharma, right? That's his dharma, king's dharma, to protect his kingdom and his people. But it's also mentioned that when against Krishna consciousness, you can break your dharma as well. Dharma which he broke, that he rather not look after the people, he left them without a king. And there's like dharma where you disobey your parents and your family, with like obeying your mom or your father. If they are against Krishna consciousness, you disobey them and you just do your service anyway. So it's dharma versus devotional service. And that's what he chose. He chose devotional service to dharma because that is the highest dharma.
Yeah, that's really good point, Ravi. That's really interesting. That's really good point. That in Krishna as well says that basically sarv dharman paritagya mam ekam sharanam vraja.
Good.
So
Yeah.
right, so leaving all the duties, one can still take the path of devotional service, and still he'll be not bound by the that's basically that he owed to any demigod's family members or anyone in this material world. So yeah, that's an exemplary example of this. Basically, I mean, one can leave all the dharmas and still can take shelter of Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is also interesting that the yajna was still happening when Vasishtha left, and he returned. The yajna was still continuing. So it was pretty long yajna that was going on. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 385 days long. This
Okay.
yajna that Maharaj was doing is 385 days long. That's why. So this is another reason why Maharaja Nimi was anxious to get the yajna done, because it's going to be long. It's called Satra Yag. Satra Yag he was doing 385 days, so over a year long. So it's going to take a long time to do anyway. So he didn't want to be messing about, waiting around for Sage Vashish to come back from the heavenly planets. Like I said, one day is equivalent to our 1 year, because 360, our 1 year is 360 celestial years. Okay, so
Right.
if they were doing Satra Yagya 365 days, Maharaj Sage would come back after 365 or 370 years.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
anyway, if he says I'm just going to this other kingdom down the road and doing a yajna, that's you could understand. But he's going to a different planet to do a yajna, which and where there's like 1 year versus 360 years difference.
Yeah.
So
This one more point, Prabhuji, which is quite interesting, is that like a parent, a spiritual parent as well, like a spiritual master. Uh, Even if they curse or basically chastise a devotee or that chastise someone, basically, there is always good for there's always good for the devotee. Basically, there's always good for the student. And in here, basically, although he was cursed, basically, but it was still uh, in line with the mood he wanted to achieve, or what he wanted to achieve. He still attained this spiritual body. So although he got a curse to leave the body, Maharaj Nimi, but still he was able to get this spiritual body. So it's also being said that it, I'm just uh, trying to present my perception is that although he was cursed to come out of his material body, he still was able to achieve the spiritual body by that curse. So it was still for his benefit.
there is a bonus in that respect.
Yeah.
Absolutely good point, Prabhu.
Yeah.
So that curse actually became a boon to him.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very good point. Very good point. Yeah. So
Right.
Krishna can't, that proves that for a devotee, whatever happens, especially for a devotee, although for everybody, whatever happens for good, but this actually proves that Krishna gives special attention to his devotee. So
Right.
what may seem like poison at first becomes nectar later
Absolutely.
on. That point is proven here. So very good point. Yeah, although it seemed wrong at the time, but it was for his benefit. His spiritual master actually gave him a benefit. He gave him a boon
Right.
in the covering of a curse. So brilliant. Yeah.
And the last point beyond my understanding is that why he cursed his spiritual master, which I couldn't understand. Maybe someone could actually explain
Yeah,
it
it was
further.
a speech. I mean, I forget now. I did read it. Said Vashisht then also took birth somewhere else, and that's like another story. So
Yeah,
that maybe Said Vashisht had to move on as well. So it's all good. End of the day, it's all auspicious.
yeah,
So that is written in the Bhagavatam what happens to Said Vashisht and what happened to Maharaja Nimi we know. So
yeah.
yeah, he's
But
also
Sheikh
meant.
Vasisht came back as a Vasisht himself, right? Because he was there at the time of when the at the time of Ramayana, Sage Vasisht was there, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I know what you're saying. Yeah, because yeah, he was their spiritual master. I don't know. I have to check that part, but I know that he did take rebirth, and maybe things happened, and then he was
yeah,
reminded that he said Vasisht. I don't know. Would have to check that, but I do remember reading something that said Vasisht was uh, born again. So yeah, would have to
yeah.
check that. And we could do a class on that if you want, and just elaborate on that.
That's fine, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, bro. Uh,
Thank
right, I'm just gonna ask Sarvashri Mataji.
Hare
Mataji,
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Mataji, what do you think about this? Before you give me realization, what do you think about this? It's
A
that
lot of lot of the points have been discussed, but what I can realization is Maharaj Nimi did not want to accept the material body because he knew it is full of distress, lamentation, and fear. Always when we fear of something or we worry about something. So this when we have material body, we go under these circumstances. And he
sure.
knows material body, whether in a higher planetary system or lower planetary system, everybody have to die. Even Lord Brahma dies. So it's no use having going to the all the time just like a Ferris wheel, up and down, death and birth again. And in the human form of life, one should take opportunity to overcome four sufferings, birth, death, disease, old age, and it can be done by doing Bhagavad Dharma or devotional service. And there's like this body, they say it's a bad bargain, but we can make good use of this bad bargain by doing this devotional service, doing good service to Krishna. So we can use this body in this way. And this world is now good to live. Even Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Mam Uktaya Punarjanma Dukhalayam Ashashwatam Napvanti Mahatmana Samsiddhi Paramam Gata. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the higher perfection. So if we don't want to be born again with this full of misery, if we want a higher perfection, Krishna says, do the devotional service to me. He says himself, this is temporary world, dukhalayam, is full of miseries and distress, and is very temporary world. It's not permanent. Temporary means it's illusion. Like sometimes when you see people, they were here and they passed away, and do you think was it very special really here, or it's like a dream? It's not true. You have done so many things happen, and that's what is called Maya. It's all illusion. So that's what I think Maharaj Nimi thought of all these things. And he said, because he has been experienced all these things, and he didn't want to go through over again all this. So he wanted spiritual body. And
Sure.
the Brahmana, the priest, they asked the demigods to help them to give him the life, but he didn't want it. So that's what I
Yeah.
can think. His material body is not very good. It's a very bargain. We should make good use of it while
So
we are alive.
yes, Mataji. So they keep saying we heard Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Mahaprabhu mentioned that they want to take birth, they want to come back birth after birth. I mean, do we really want to come back birth after birth? What do you think?
Sorry?
You know, in the what we're reading, it was, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says they want to come back birth after birth, and even Mahaprabhu says, I want to in his sixth Ashtakam, I want to come back in this Dukhalyam Ashashvatam, birth after birth. What do you think about that? What's your opinion on that? Coming back birth after birth?
Well, some says that if you want to take birth, you have to take birth in a place where can just still devotional service, not like ordinary. And then you won't feel so pain and distress when you are your life devoted to Krishna. So sometimes they say their life after life, they want to take birth, but they want to have they want to be a pure devotee of Krishna.
Yeah, so it's dangerous, isn't it? Coming back again and again, it's dangerous because birth after birth, you know, it's a world full of sense gratification. It's dangerous. It's a dangerous place for us, for everyone, for human beings especially. It's a dangerous place. So to be honest, we don't want to come back again and again. We're not Mahaprabhu. We are not Bhakti Thakur. You know, they are exalted people. We are afraid that we might not survive the next time. We might fall down. There's always a fear of falling down, getting to bad association as well. So we really don't want birth after birth. We want to do our best and just get out of this Dukhyala, isn't it?
On the other hand, like in Chaitan Mahaprabhu, he says this is na dhanam, na janam, na sundaram. But he said, I don't want anything, but I want to be devotee life after life. So the pure devotees, they don't mind coming on this earth.
It's very, very difficult to guarantee that. That's what I'm saying. It's very difficult to guarantee that we can do it birth after birth. We can give one lifetime to Lord Krishna, which we want to do now, is to give him this life, because we had millions of lives that we've enjoyed. So at least this life we want to give to him. But I mean, I personally can't guarantee that I can give Krishna all my lives, you know, if I have to come back, because I might be tempted not to, you know, I might not be so much stronger in my endeavor to, you know, to continue. A good chance you can fall down. Sometimes you might have a lot of opulence, or sometimes you might have, you know, you come back and you have you like some kind of star or something. So, you know, if you make it like that, you're a celebrity. So there's a good chance you will fall down, because, you know, you'll be more tempted to fall down. So I think this life, we are just in the right balance, in the right place. We're not too opulent and we're not too much of a celebrity. Krishna has given us something just in the right amount that we can peacefully do our bhakti and go back home. So, Madhuri, shall we do a couple of rounds now? Time is running.
Yeah, okay.
Let's do it. And before we start, just want to say that Sunday we have Keshavananda Prabhu. The class is on how to judge advancement in devotion. He's a great devotee. He's very good. I listen to his classes. Really worth a listen. He's very good. And next Friday we'll do Bhishamadev's advice to Maharaj Yudhishthira. That's very interesting as well, because Lord Krishna asks Yudhishthira Maharaj to speak to ask these questions to Bhishamadeva, and so that we will start that topic next Friday. So thank you so much, and let's do a couple of rounds quickly. Thank you, Mataji.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vasaya